Tonight, the Republican presidential field one candidate smaller.
I can't ask our supporters to volunteer their time and donate their resources if we don't have a clear path to victory.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis dropping out of the race.
Accordingly, I am today suspending my campaign.
The decision coming just days after DeSantis committed to staying in through the South Carolina primary at the end of February.
Are you in through the end of March? Do you have the money and the staff and the ability to compete through the end of March?
Yes, on that, 100%. We can do that.
DeSantis, once the top contender to take on former President Trump, now endorsing his rival.
Trump is superior to the current incumbent, Joe Biden. That is clear. I signed a pledge to support the Republican nominee, and I will honor that pledge.
The Florida governor had staked his campaign on success in Iowa, pouring the vast majority of his resources into the Hawkeye state and still losing to Trump by 30 points. Late today, Donald Trump said in a statement he was, quote, honored to have his endorsement.
And I want to say to Ron, he ran a great race. He's been a good governor.
Nikki Haley now remains the lone contender to the former president, with the New Hampshire primary just 2 days away. Haley hammering Trump again today.
I don't know if he was confused. I don't know what happened, but it should be enough to send us a warning sign.
After Mr. Trump appeared to repeatedly refer to Nikki Haley instead of former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi.
Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people, soldiers, National Guard, so whatever they want. They turned it down.
Mr. Trump later saying,
I feel my mind is stronger now than it was 25 years ago.
The latest poll from CNN and the University of New Hampshire has Trump at 50%, Haley at 39%. The question now, where that 6% supporting DeSantis goes.
And Dasha's with us now in Manchester, New Hampshire. Dasha, do we expect Governor DeSantis to show up at a Trump rally anytime soon?
Kate, a campaign source tells me that they are not planning anything like that as of now. The governor is taking time at home in Florida with his family. Kate?
Dasha Burns, thank you. Let's get right to Vaughn Hillyard with the Trump campaign in New Hampshire. Vaughn, the former president, hoping the race for the nomination will be over after Tuesday.
That's right, Kate. It's not just the Ron DeSantis endorsement that is giving the Trump campaign momentum in this race, but it's also the fact that here in just the last week, former primary rivals Tim Scott, Vivek Ramaswamy, and Doug Burgum also threw their weight behind him. Trump won Iowa with more than 50% of the vote last weekend. In South Carolina, where Haley served as governor, an average of recent polling this winter shows him with a roughly 30-point lead over Haley on her home turf for that primary next month. The other problem for Haley, where the supporters of DeSantis turn. I just talked to one New Hampshire resident a few moments ago outside of this Trump rally tonight. He went to a DeSantis campaign, stopped just 48 hours ago, and was weighing voting for him. Tonight, he's here for Trump and tells me that Nikki Haley is not the viable alternative that he was open to. Kate?
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.